Welcome to the American Nomad Podcast, hosted by the legend himself, or as I refer to him, the legend in his own mind, Rav Holly.
Is this thing working? Hopefully it is. Looks like it is. There we go. Took a minute for it to transition. It's got a little slight delay. What is up, everybody? Good to see you guys. Looks like we already got a few people in the room. Welcome to Wednesday's American Nomad Podcast. I am your host, Rav Holly, a legend in my own mind, just like she said. There we go. All right. Can you guys hear me? We working okay today? It's a little weird for me because I actually am watching the stream here myself, but unlike the webcam feature, when you use the streaming feature, there's a slight delay. So it looks odd because I'm doing things and then it's not happening on the screen. It's happening like a split second later, but hopefully I'll get used to that. I think this is going to work for us a lot better, hopefully in the future. I've been working on this, if you can't tell. Working on the production value of it anyway. I had that weird thing happen to me. I got this all set up, and I had that exact weird thing happen to me that happened to us Monday, where the screen got all decombobulated and it got the wrong size. And I was up for an hour trying to figure out why that is happening and what is causing that and getting it back fixed. And I don't even know how I fixed it. It just all of a sudden started working again like it was supposed to. So I was very apprehensive. I was very worried today that this was going to happen to me again. But so far, so good. What do you guys think of the new transitions and stuff? You like it, not like it? We'll be going to a full screen here right now. And like I said, it's already transitioned in my software, but it hasn't on YouTube. So that's going to take a little bit of getting used to for me. There, now it just transitioned. But I clicked the button like 5 seconds ago for it to do that. So anyway, good to see you guys. Thank you again for joining me here on another episode of The American Nomad. I am, again, the American Nomad, Rav Holly. And today I got a few show notes over here. I got a hot topic. I just watched a documentary that came through on my Instagram. It was like a short 20-minute documentary. And with all the crazy things that's being said about mainstream celebrities, and I guess it's mostly directed towards Tom Hanks. And there's a lot of speculation and a lot of conspiracy and a lot of talk about things that go on in Hollywood. And I have a lot of knowledge. I have actually worked extensively in Hollywood. I have been working in Hollywood for many years. Since 2009 was the first time I ever walked onto a professional set, which was CSI Miami. That was being filmed in downtown Long Beach. That's a little secret for all of you that watch or used to watch CSI Miami. It always shows Miami, but a majority of it was filmed in downtown Long Beach, except for the cityscape scenes and stuff like that. But anytime they were doing anything, most of the time it was filmed in downtown Long Beach. Every time I worked on the show, we were filming in downtown Long Beach. I guess they did have a crew in Miami, but I think they were there few and far between. Mostly it was just like the cityscape shots, like the intro cityscape shot would show Miami, and then it would go to the actors or the principal characters we were filming in downtown Miami. So, I've never worked with Tom Hanks. I've been in the same room as Tom Hanks, but I didn't speak to him. Just saw him from a distance, and I was with some other celebrities, so we didn't approach Tom. He was pretty much in his own little world over there, and he had plenty of people coming at him, so we didn't really approach him. But like a lot of people, I've loved so many of his movies over the years. I remember Splash, like back in the early 90s. Does anybody remember Splash with Daryl Hannah, and she was the mermaid? There was that. There was Big. He had a whole bunch of movies like back in the late 80s, early 90s that were very, very popular. And then you move into like the mid 90s, late 90s. You had like Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan, and all these other big hits that he's had. And, he's just continued to act through all of these years. And now you have these crazy conspiracies that are coming out. And one of these conspiracies, unfortunately, it started because of him posting stuff on Instagram. And, it's, if he's not guilty, it's very sad, because I know for a fact that a lot of celebrities, they actually struggle with having an Instagram account. They actually struggle with having an Instagram account and using it themselves personally. I know several celebrities that are A-list, not several celebrities. I should say I know a couple of celebrities that have Instagram accounts, but they actually do not post themselves. They have a PR company that runs and maintains their Instagram account, and they basically feed stuff to that PR company. They will, if they take a picture of something, they take the picture, they send it to their PR rep company, or their what do you call it? Their social media PR company, I guess. Their social media agency that actually runs and is in charge of the operation of their Instagram account. So they send their post. If they, they may have like 10 or 15 posts that they think is Instagram worthy. So they send it off to their IG rep. The IG rep either looks at it and posts it or doesn't. And then because their rep is responsible for making sure that they don't post anything that could be misconstrued or could be held against them or could show them in a bad light. So, I know that goes on, and I do believe that Tom is actually in charge of his Instagram account himself. He's posting his own stuff. I don't think he has, I could be mistaken, but I don't think he has an agency actually taking care of his Instagram account. So he's actually taking care of it himself. Hey, Random Nomad, Ambo Live, what's going on, guys? Chevy Live, what's going on? Matilda, good to see you, Matilda. You're one of my favorites. This chat with the stream it's not scrolling on itself. It does when you have it on the webcam, but it's not here. Okay, there it goes, I believe. Chevy Live Trav, what's going on? All of the QAnon stuff is a fairy tale. Now Hanks actually has an accuser. Yeah, I don't know. I know I have I have some friends in Texas, and I'm not going to, I'm not belittling them. I'm not doing anything because I don't really know. Now look, I have went down the QAnon rabbit hole to an extent. I know what it's all about. I know all about the, I know all about the character that they have on, Twitter. I'm not going to put any names out there, but I know all about the character that they have on Twitter that they think is Q. They actually believe that he is Robert Kennedy Jr., who died in a plane crash with his wife back in the 90s. Was it the 90s or the 80s? I think it was the 90s when he died. He died in a plane crash in New York. But they think he's still alive, and they think he's the one that's Q and the one that's doing all of this. They think he faked his death, and he's the actual Q that is doing all this stuff. And they think he faked his death because there was rumors by the deep state that they were going to assassinate him because he was going to run, or he was running, I guess, against Hillary Clinton for, I don't know, the state senate for New York or whatever. And so they think that he faked his death because the deep state was going to assassinate him like they did his father. So, those conspiracies go deep. And the thing about conspiracies is I never scoff at them, because there was a time when I scoffed at conspiracies myself. I'd hear something and I'd be like, who believes that? That's crazy. That's just so silly that anybody believes that. And I mean, you've got everything from flat earth to, the Kennedy conspiracy, the JFK conspiracy. There's all kinds of conspiracies. But over the years, several of these conspiracies, like, some of the government conspiracies, like, what was the one? Operation, God, what was it? Can't think of the name of it. Joe Rogan talks about it on his podcast all the time. But it was a government conspiracy where the FBI was taking people and giving them I can't say the word. They were giving them like LSD and stuff. Operation Paperclip. That was part of it. Yeah, so you have a lot of this stuff from the deep state. Okay, let's see. Are we getting some It just gave me a message. It says, "Error, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering." Well, that's not good. Wonder why that is. Let me try to take the... How's the stream look, guys? Is it... I'm getting a thing says it's all choppy. Is it looking all choppy, or does it look pretty smooth? I think my internet connection is good, so I don't know why that would be. But that's why we're doing all these test runs. And I do want to say really quick before I do forget that I had said that I would have Badge on the show today, and I actually really had to struggle with that because I did want to have him on the show today. Okay, it looks good. Great, good. It sounds and looks good on my end. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate that. So I actually was going to have Badge on the show today, or try to get a hold of Badge and have him on the show. But after the problems that I had last week, I didn't want to add any more to my plate, if that makes sense, until I have this down and I've used this streaming software for YouTube instead of just using their webcam feature. Their webcam feature is really, really simple, if you haven't figured it out. I'm using their streaming feature now, which that way I can use my transitions and use all these different things that I can't use if I just use their webcam, because basically their webcam just turns the camera on and that's all you get. So with this, I'm actually using two different softwares. I'm using a Sparko software for my camera. I'm using OBS Live for my streaming software. So everything runs through OBS Live. I know this sounds... It can get a little bit complicated doing it this way, but I learned to do gaming. For those of you who don't know, I stream on Twitch, my Facebook gaming page, and Twitch, Facebook gaming, and I guess that's it now. I used to do Mixer, but I actually wanted to learn the gaming end of it because I knew if I could learn how to do the gaming end of it, then I could transition that over to the podcast, and basically that's what I've done. I've learned to do the OBS Live, and I was able to do test runs by gaming. But the gaming works a little bit different than just doing the podcast. But I've taken all of the elements I've learned from the gaming and implemented them into the podcast to give the podcast a little bit more production value, if that makes sense. Yeah, so there's no Badge today, Random Nomad. But as soon as I have this podcast all lined out, and I've done a few podcasts, and I know exactly how this is going to work on a regular basis, then I'm going to start reaching out. I went through the Zoom software. I think I have that figured out. I think if I just started the Zoom software now and I linked the person that I want to have on, then they can just come right on. And I use the streaming software. I have to have the streaming software. That way you guys can see him. So this has all got to work together. So I still got to figure out exactly how that's going to work using the streaming software, because I got to be able to show him on the screen. So I'm getting there. But I didn't want to, after I had the train wreck on Monday, I didn't want to add any more to my plate until I had a broadcast, or at least one episode that I did where I didn't have any problems, if that makes sense. So I appreciate you guys being patient with me. I'm still learning all this stuff. There's actually a lot more to it than what you may think. The funny thing is I say that, but most real nomads, they just stream on their phone. My good friend Paul Barger, who has like 50,000 YouTube subscribers, he streams on his phone. He's the one that got me to streaming, and he just turns his phone on and puts it on a stand and just streams on his phone, and it's super, super simple. And he has a lot more luck with it than I do. So I guess it's not all about the production value, but I kind of want more of a professional show, if that makes sense. Yes, Random Nomad, fingers crossed. I don't know if this is real wood. I think this is real wood. Let's knock on wood. So far, we're doing pretty good here. I have to get some shortcut things set up so I can do some changing in my software up here, because I've got to be able to set things which you guys don't see. and it takes me a minute to do it. But there's a way you can do it by just adding hotkeys on your keyboard. So I was looking at that like late this morning when my screen's all messed up. And that's actually what I was setting up. So I could push like the Alt key and that transition will happen instead of me having to go to my computer to do it, if that makes sense. But so I have to set up my outro and stuff here manually, so I'll have it ready when we're ready to close the show. And once I get this all down and streamlined, there's a thing called a Stream Deck where you can have these buttons, which is like a radio show. And I guess you can download the app for your phone. So I may look into that, but there's a way you can do it actually for free on your keyboard. So you just got to program the buttons. So I'm learning that. And that'll be, hopefully, I'll have that done by our next show. So anyway, back to our QAnon and our conspiracy with a QAnon. So I haven't gotten super deep into the QAnon. I always try to stay, when people talk about it, I want to know what they're talking about, basically. But that doesn't mean that I am reading it and I'm all embedded in it every day. So I don't know that much about QAnon. Well, I will say, though, is when it comes to Pizzagate, I know this video is going to get demonetized. When it comes to Pizzagate, I went pretty far down that rabbit hole. And if you haven't been down the Pizzagate rabbit hole, it goes way down there. And when you get into some of the stuff about the John Podesta emails, Hillary deleting all of her emails, the Ping Pong Pizza, the Comet Pizza, and the other pizza place that's right next door. I can't think of it, but it had it literally had the pedophile, the man-boy lovers symbol in their logo for their pizza place. And it was the place that's right next door to Comet Pizza. And it's actually the place that has the basement. So the Pizzagate thing really, if you haven't went down that rabbit hole, it's deep and it's pretty crazy. And it's there's so many things down that rabbit hole that you can't just what people try to do is go, oh, that was proven to not be real. No, it wasn't. It was never proven to not be real. All they did was just say it wasn't real. The guy took a gun to Comet Pizza, and because he went looking for the basement, but what he didn't realize is the pizza place with the basement wasn't actually Comet. It's the pizza place right next door that had the pedophile symbol in their logo. There's two pizza places, and Ben Swan did a spot when he was on the CBS News. He did a spot about Pizzagate on there. It's really good. You can find it on YouTube. And he was gone from CBS shortly after he came out with that little expose. Chevy Life says, I think a lot of our political and entertainment people are pedos. I'm convinced. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of symbolism. You can't argue with the symbolism, even when you're talking about the Illuminati and, all of these crazy conspiracies. It's there. You can't say that it's not there. If you look at Disney cartoons, if you look at movies, you'll always see the Eye of Horus, that one eye. You'll always see the Eye of Horus on everything. That stuff is there. And if you go down those conspiracy rabbit holes, I mean, it all leads back to they're basically Satanist and they actually believe in ancient Egyptian theology and they're not Christians. They're pretending to be Christians. I mean, this whole conspiracy is vast. I mean, it even says like the Vatican. The Vatican is part of this, Rome. If you look at the Pope's robe, he has the entire, that man-boy lover sign is in the thing of his robe. You see pictures of it with that triangle in his robe. And it's not some crazy conspiracy theory or some crazy conspiracist that came out like Alex Jones and said that this triangle was a symbol for man-boy lovers. It wasn't Alex Jones. They actually posted this stuff themselves, and then it made the FBI list. The FBI listed these symbols in 2007 on their website. So when you find these symbols in these celebrities' Instagram posts, or if you find it on the Pope's robe and stuff like that, is it just all coincidence? It just doesn't make sense to me. There's actually another picture where it shows like the interior of one of the, I don't think it's the Vatican, but it's one of the cathedrals or one of the the chapel rooms there in the Vatican, where when you look at it, it's a serpent's eyes. The whole room is designed to be the face of a snake, a serpent. So there's all of these things. I mean, if it's a conspiracy, why are these things real? That is my question. Why is it all real? Freedom Dove, you're the one that actually inspired this today, Freedom Dove. I was thinking about you and the things you've been talking about, and you were talking about last week. Androchrome, I don't know. I don't really know too much about the androchrome. Is it really a substance? I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at that. Hey, Iance. Oh, is that my buddy from Austin? Hale? It says a Lance. Yeah, okay. Looks like an eye. Lance, what's going on, buddy? I saw you got a new trailer. So you got rid of the B-class camper, and you just ordered you a actual. Is it a toy hauler, or is it just it's just an RV pull behind? Is it a bumper pull or a gooseneck? Look like a bumper pull. Freedom Dove says, "Oh, good topic. Let's bring the truth to light." Yes, Freedom Dove. That's what we're doing. Yeah, Lance. Sorry, Lance. It shows an eye. It is a real substance. Yeah, I don't know too much about that. I'll have to look into it. Lance, for sale now, 32-foot travel trailer, bumper pull. You said number pull, but I know it's a bumper pull. Look like a really nice trailer, Lance. Great thing about a trailer, man, is you can just pull up and unhook that thing and, take your regular vehicle and go about your business. The only problem is every time you get ready to go somewhere, you got to hook onto it to go. That gets old. Growing up on a ranch, I know hooking up a trailer at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to go load the horses gets to be a pain in the butt. Let's see. Freedom Doves, they harvest it from terrified children. It's a hormone. Okay. Yeah, I think I actually had heard that. Operation Not Forgotten is underway to save children who are trafficked. Yes. So is the operation... So do you keep up with the QAnon conspiracy, Freedom Dove? Yes, I do have PayPal, Random Nomad. I have it. I have a link in some of my YouTube videos. Let me grab it really quick. Let's see. But I've posted two different mainstream articles, and these aren't some crazy right wing. They're not even Breitbart. These are regular like NBC or that are talking about federal marshals saving children, and a lot of these children, which is crazy. You don't hear. I posed the question like last week, like why don't you hear any you don't hear any leftists saying anything about what's going on with these children. So like a week ago it was 32 children. A couple of days ago it's 27 children. I think the first ones were in Atlanta maybe. But these federal marshals are finding these exploited and kidnapped children. And I mean it should be the number one thing in the news, right? I mean, that is like the most positive news you could get right now. And when it comes to CNN or anything, they won't say anything about it. Yeah, so that's Random Nomad, I'm dropping my PayPal. I'm not e-begging, so I'm just dropping it in the room. And I've actually started a Patreon page too. So if anybody does want to support the show, I truly appreciate it. I'm not asking for it, but if anybody wants to, I do appreciate it. So Freedom Dove says the left are PDL, Pedophile Defense League. Well, that was one of my buddies, Derek, who I've worked with in Hollywood. He was coming on my Facebook page, and this is today. And I was like a little combobbled trying to get ready for the show because I was going back and forth with him because he actually came onto my Facebook page, and when I posed the question about Tom Hanks and SRC USA, he came onto my Facebook page and saying, "Oh, that's the crazy QAnon stuff. You should know better. It's all been debunked." And so that's when I hit him with Pizzagate, and I actually posted the pictures because they're still out there on the web. If you haven't seen these pictures from Pizzagate, that was that Johnny Comet or whatever, Tommy Comet, or the guy that owns the Comet Pizza, If you never looked at his Instagram page, I looked at it before he set it to private, and it was some of the most disturbing imagery I've ever seen in my life. As a matter of fact, when Ben Swan did a spot on CBS, he couldn't even show the pictures that was on this gay dude's Instagram page. So this gentleman is a gay guy, and all of his Instagram posts, this is true stuff. So this is not a conspiracy. You can't call this a conspiracy because this was his factual Instagram. That's what makes me irate, is when people on the left try to brand this a conspiracy when it's not a conspiracy. This was his Instagram page. There's no conspiracy with that. He posted this stuff himself. And what he posted was very disturbing imagery. He posted pictures of babies taped to tables or toddlers, like a 2 or 3 year old girl with her hands taped down with all of this taping her hands to the table. Many pictures of babies and infants, and with these not derogatory, but these sexualized captions that were very vague, but just didn't sound right, like, ooh, dinner's going to be good tonight, and it would have a picture of an infant. Let me explain something to you. I'm a grown man. I am a grown man. I'm a grown heterosexual man. I would never post anything. That would never even come across my mind to post on Instagram. An infant and saying something about, oh, dinner's going to be good tonight, we're having pizza. That does not even cross my mind as an adult until this Pizzagate conspiracy and looking at, what the heck is his name? Johnny, let's look it up in case somebody wants to Google it that doesn't know what I'm talking about. Let me look up what the name of his pizza place was, or what his Instagram account was. And he has set it to Jimmy Comet. So it's Jimmy Comet, JIMMYCOMET. So he has now set his Instagram to private where people can't see it, but it was at one time public. And I looked at it when all this Pizzagate stuff when it very first started coming out. And I immediately was like, what in the hell is this? This is weird. And so these leftists have no one to blame but themselves for these conspiracy theories. They act like they're some victims, or, Hillary Clinton is talking about, all of the right-wing trolls that are after her. They created this. The right wing didn't create it. The right wing just followed the trails. The trails were there. The trails were in plain view. But people are starting to wake up to them when they didn't know what all this stuff meant. If this stuff had came out in the 80s in a newspaper or even in a magazine, people would have looked at it and went, ooh, this is so weird, I'm not even going to pay attention to it. But because people are starting to wake up when they see these things that they're like, that's weird. They're starting to follow the crumbs, because that's what they are, is they're crumbs. And it's like this elite people that know what these things mean that the regular people like us don't know what they mean. So they could all communicate with each other in the open, because nobody actually was smart enough back in the day to figure out what they were talking about. Those times have changed with the information freedom, the internet, and the information freedom highway, or whatever they used to call it. Those times have changed. Let's see. Freedom Dove says, I'm so thankful this is all coming to light. If you don't know about it, how can you stop it? Very true. Very true. And another thing that gets me is, all of these people that are trying to say that that there's no missing or exploited children, or the leftists they're so worried about Trump putting kids in cages at the border that they're not even American citizens. You know what I mean? But we have all of these actual American citizen kids that are, that are actually being exploited and being molested, and leftists don't care anything about those kids. They have nothing to say about it. If you say anything on your Facebook page, or you post 37 kids just saved from sexual predators and sex traffickers in Alabama, not one of my leftist friends liked that post. None of them. They just sidestep it. They ignore it. But if I post something about BLM or some black guy raping some or trying to rape some girl in a subway, oh, they're right on it. Oh, that has nothing to do with defunding the police. They're all over that. But if you post something about children being rescued, they could care less. They have absolutely nothing to say about it. And if they do say something about it, they're like my friend Derek, who is defending it. And it's like I told him, I'm like, hey, here's something new for the people that are on the right. If you're on the left, they're continuously branding everybody that supports the president. If you're right leaning, you're automatically a racist now. It doesn't even matter if you're Hispanic, if you're Native American, if you're black. If you support President Trump and you support the right, you are automatically a racist. So what I'm saying is from now on, when they're taking up for Tom Hanks and they're taking up for Hollywood, if we're racist automatically, then they're automatically pedos. They're all pedophiles, every single one of them. So from now on, when they hit you with, oh, you're just a racist, you go, oh, you're just a leftist pedophile, because they don't like that at all. But if they're going to brand all of us as racist and just throw the R word around, we can brand them as pedophiles because they sure don't have much to say about pedophilia and all this pedo paraphernalia that you're finding. Lance says, I'm not a racist. I hate all stupid people. I hate all criminals. That's more where I'm at. And being a pedophile and, taking advantage of innocent children, to me, that is the most vile criminal activity that you can do. I think we should have far greater penalties for child molesters and people that take advantage of children. And there's a bill here in California that just passed that was spurred up by some senator, I guess. I think a senator up in San Francisco, and I believe it's called 1045. You'd have to look this up. My friend Christina, she was talking about it yesterday. I don't know a whole lot about it. Okay, hold on, Travis. Your message got held. Okay. Yeah, if you guys moderators random, if you could look at those so they don't catch me. I appreciate my mods. Thank you, Random Nomad. Guys, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, what was I talking about? Sorry about that. Yeah, I saw, so some of your comments, guys, get held for moderation when you say stuff like, I guess Trav said Allah or something like that. So the mods will have to look at that and read it and see if it's approved for the room. Yeah, Allah was a pedophile. Yeah, he married a 5-year-old. He had like a 5-year-old bride. That's pedophilia. And what a lot of people don't know is in Afghanistan, we frown up on it, of course, but it's their, I don't even know how you put it. It's their, it's what they do is men actually sleep with pubescent, man, I cannot talk today. Before puberty, pubescent boys and young teenage boys. We're talking, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Afghanistan men will take those boys and take them as lovers because they are, Allah or Muhammad forbid them to have sex before they're married to a woman or something like that. Now, I could be wrong on that because I don't know a lot about the Quran. I just know it's something in their religion that they actually take boys, pubescent boys and teenage boys as lovers and basically are molesting them is what it boils down to. But it's part of their ideology. It's just what they do. It's what they've always been doing. So I thought it was a conspiracy. I thought it was a bunch of malarkey when I heard this. And then I actually read a article that was published back in hey guys, if you could try not to post stuff that's going to be held because it's throwing me off. no offense, Travis, but just try not to post stuff that's going to be held, because then it takes my attention away from what I'm talking about, because I see it and then I have to try to read it to see if it needs to be approved. But anyway, so I thought this. I didn't know what to think of it. I just heard that this was a way of life in Afghanistan, that these men take these boys, these 7, 8, 9-year-old boys as lovers, and are having anal intercourse with these little boys because they can't have a woman at that time because Muhammad forbids it. So I didn't know what to think of this until I read an article that was in like Army Times. It was an article about our military and how that some of our military men had been reprimanded because they were having a really, really, really hard time with these Afghanistan men. And some of these Afghanistan men were men that were helping as interpreters and stuff for the U.S. military. And then at night, these guys are, they're hanging with the troops all day as buddy troops, as Afghanistan helpers, basically, as interpreters, and basically they're with our military, working all day as interpreters, and then at night they're bringing boys in, having sex with them, and our U.S. troops are seeing this. And I guess one of our U.S. troops took one of those interpreters and literally beat the brakes off of him, and the U.S. troop ended up getting a court-martial and getting, I think he went to the brig for like 6 months to a year, because this guy was considered like an ally, a diplomat kind of guy or whatever, but he was basically taking this little 6 or 7-year-old boy and had him bent over doing his business, and our military guy gave him a little bit of what he deserved. The problem is that's their culture. That's what I was trying to think of earlier. That's their culture. They've been doing that for years. I guess those men, it probably happened to them when they were little boys. So I don't know how you stop that when it's embedded in their culture. And if you know anything really about Afghanistan, I mean, it's as third world country as third world gets. People think that there's modern places in Afghanistan. There's really not. I mean, I watched a video of them killing a girl that they thought had did something with her Quran, and they basically in the city streets they ran her down and murdered her. And then it came out like a week later that she never even did it. They just thought she did it. Somebody yelled that they'd seen her doing something with the Quran that she had never done, and they chased her down. And there's video. There used to be video on the internet of this happening. Hey, Badge. Just saying hi, out of here. Sorry. Oh, no problem, Badge. I apologize for not getting a hold of you and getting you on the show today. I was talking about that at the beginning. I had some technical difficulties last show, so I'm trying to get everything ironed out here before I start getting into the whole Zoom thing to add another level to my plate here, or another serving on my plate. Man, I'm just my brain is not functioning properly today. So anyway, I think we covered that pretty much. I want to talk about something that I've been noticing, and I wanted to see if any of you guys have noticed this. Freedom Dove says, thank God for the USA. We are in the best country in the world. I totally agree with that, and I've been all over the world, Freedom Dove. I mean, when you get out of the United States, there's a lot of other cool countries that have their own, like Switzerland. I've been to Switzerland. I've been to Sweden. There's a lot of cool things. Like the thing I loved about Switzerland is how clean it is. It's so clean. It's so clean, but then it's so white. There's nothing but white people there, but it's so clean and rich. And I remember one night I was in Zurich, Switzerland, and I was in this really nice 5-star hotel, and it was cold, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to get out and just go for a walk. And I got out and I walked around Zurich, and I was just amazed by how clean it was. There was no trash, no graffiti, none of this stuff. None of this stuff you get with, I don't even know where you go. Canada, yeah, Toronto's clean too. Canada's a socialist country ran by the crown. Yeah, that's actually true. German, Italian mostly. I've been to Berlin. Berlin's nice. It's actually very clean as well. Berlin's really nice, clean. I like clean. I like clean cities. That's one thing about LA. If you've never been to LA, it's one of the most filthy, dirty cities you'll ever step foot in. I was behind some tourists probably about a year ago, maybe over a year ago, and way before the COVID thing. And they were from, I'm not sure, they sounded like they were from Texas, maybe Texas, Tennessee, somewhere like that. They had like a little southern twang. They were a little tipsy, a little drunk, and they came out of a bar. I came out of another bar, and I was walking, and they were walking in front of me, and all they were doing was talking about how dirty. We were in downtown LA, and all they were doing is talking about how disgusted they were about how dirty LA is. And LA is so dirty. Random Nomad says, yeah, Justin Trudeau, I guess, is part of this too. I have heard that Q is talking. Yeah. Kind of like California. Yep, for sure. So one thing I was noticing that I've been noticing I was going to bring up, I meant to bring this up on the last podcast and I missed it, but has anybody else been seeing, I'm starting to see a shortage of stuff. My favorite little teriyaki Asian restaurant right here behind my office building, they closed. They closed not because they were not having business. They closed because they couldn't get ingredients. They kept running out of ingredients. They didn't have all the ingredients they needed to make the stuff they needed to make. I also noticed that the Subway I go into right here in behind my office, I go in there, they've only got 2 breads. Usually Subway has 5 or 6 types of bread, and every time I go in there, they'll say, we only have wheat or white, or what they had another one like jalapeno or something the other day. I was like, that's weird. Yes, an ingredient shortage. So I'm starting to see an ingredient shortage. I'm starting to see a shortage of things. Going into 7-Eleven and seeing bare shelves. Going into different stores, seeing bare shelves. And I don't think a lot of people are. Paying attention to that. But no roast beef at Subway too. Yes, but I pay attention to it because it definitely could be a sign of the times and what is and what's in the future. Because if things are becoming a shortage now, if this COVID thing holds out for the rest of the year, which I think Democrats are going to make sure it does, because they're convinced it's going to ruin Trump's chances at re-election, I think we're going to see a lot more shortages of things that we probably are used to having just on an everyday basis. Learn how to fish, grow food, and hunt. I know how to do all those things, Freedom Dove. I was doing those things before I was in junior high school. I'm kind of rusty, but yeah, I have a shotgun. If I needed to go hunt quail, I'll find some pheasant, quail, something. I've skinned many rabbits, and I know where there's a ton of rabbits. Freedom Dove, I can't buy ammo for my new gun. Yeah, that's a thing here in California as well, but I would just drive to Arizona. Arizona is only like a couple hours from me here in LA. I can drive to Arizona to Quartzsite or to Parker, and I'll be good with getting ammo. So we're running up on an hour here. I wanted to try to keep this an hour. I've been shooting for an hour, and it always goes over. So I've got a couple more topics I want to touch base on really quick. One of them is, if you haven't heard, Joe Rogan, who is the most popular, if you eat rabbit, eat organs too. No, I never did that. I always cleaned the rabbit pretty good. I would eat the heart. You could boil the heart, I guess. Never been an organ eater. That was always part of the innards that I always just cleaned out. But for any of you that don't know, wow, that goes fast. I know it does, Random Nomad. For any of you that don't hunt or have never hunted rabbit, there's tons of rabbits that you could hunt to eat if things ever got dire. But what you do need to understand is there's difference between like a jackrabbit and a cottontail. If you if you meat to lean rabbit starvation, yeah. If you shoot a jackrabbit, you're not going to get very much good meat off of a jackrabbit because there's not enough meat on a jackrabbit, and there's just not enough fat. They're just a muscle. So don't kill jackrabbits. You don't know what a jackrabbit is? Get a cottontail. Cottontails are usually fat, and they're great eating. Great eating for cottontails. Rabbit hunting would be my last resort. Well, with me, I used to hunt rabbits when I was a kid. When I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I'd kill a rabbit and skin him and eat him myself, cook him on an open fire, be out horseback in a pasture by myself. Or quail. If I was hunting quail, I'd shoot a quail. Shot a lot of quail, hunted a lot of quail. Oh, I have a soft spot for wildlife. Well, yeah. I grew up on a ranch, so like the last time I was on the ranch with my brother, we were shooting javelinas, hogs, wild hogs, for the fun of it. I know anybody that's a PETA, if we have any PETA people in the room, they just probably choked on their own spit. Where I'm headed, I could shoot an elk walking through a state's park. Yeah. If you've never had to dress out an elk, though, if you've never had to dress out an elk or a calf, it's a lot of work, and it's pretty dirty work, but it's a lot of meat to keep for a long time if you can refrigerate it or if you know how to dry it. That's something I don't know how to do, is dry smoked beef and so you can keep it, like make jerky out of it and stuff. I don't know how to do that. I'd like to learn. I need to learn. Unfortunately, I was raised like a normal American. All meat came from the grocery. And yeah, see, we used to raise a steer every year, Freedom Dove. My dad still does. He raises a steer. We'll go down. When I was a kid, we would go down to the pasture and pick a baby calf out of our herd and take the baby calf home and put it in one of the corrals for our horses and put it in a corral. And then it was my job and my younger brother and sister, it was our job to take care of this calf, to bottle feed this calf, and to raise this calf into being a steer that we could butcher out and eat. So this calf would become like a baby to us. And then at a certain point, calf got too big and became a steer, and it was time to take him to the killers. And that's what we would do. I have seen chickens culled, but that was when I was young. Yeah, and when I was young, my mother would say, "Hey, we're going to have chicken for dinner. Why don't you go out to the barn and get us a chicken?" And so I'd run out to the barn and grab a chicken by the head. I'd run around and grab a chicken by the head and pop its head off, and then clean the feathers off of it and take it in for my mom. She'd run the water over it in the sink to loosen the feathers up, and then she would pull the feathers off the chicken, and we would have chicken for dinner. Okay, Lance, thanks for dropping in, buddy. I appreciate it. Peace and positive vibrations, Lance. Love the new trailer, man. Looking good. Looking forward to seeing some of your travel photos. So last thing I'm going to touch base on is I haven't talked about COVID in quite some time. For those of you that have watched the show, you do know that I actually had it. Still having Freedom, I want to thank you for sending me your email about the herbs and stuff and the stuff to buy to help me with the COVID. I really appreciate it. Freedom does. Yep, that's how it works. Gruesome but necessary if you want meat. Yep, and I'm a meat eater. Always will be, always have been, always will be. I think everybody should learn exactly where your meat comes from, though. That way you have a little bit more respect, I think, than just walking into a grocery store and picking up prepackaged, some prepackaged beef that you don't really understand how you get the beef. A lot of work goes into getting you that beef. My brother's still running a ranch out in eastern New Mexico that's got about 500 head of cattle, about 30 bulls. That's all he does all day long. Sun up to sundown is work that ranch. And it's a beef ranch. So those cattle, they go to, that's what they go to, is to feed people. But anyway, I'm going to end this podcast talking a little bit about my COVID. I know a lot of people think it's a conspiracy theory that the numbers have been inflated. I believe the numbers have been inflated tremendously. But I just want you to know that the COVID is real. And, my battery just went out on one of my lights. The COVID is real, and it is a mother for some people, for a very minute part of the population. And unfortunately, with my luck, I ended up being one of those people. And one of the toughest things that I'm having to deal with, I'm having to live with a lot of existing conditions, things that I got when I had COVID. One of them is joint pain. My hands still today feel very arthritic, if that makes sense. Like my finger, anything that I've broken in the past has flared up again, and it's never went away. It's flared up again like when it was healing from being broken. No, COVID is real, really, but everything else is a little much. Yes, it's real, overblown, but real. Almost killed my boss. Yeah. So I'm dealing with a lot of freedom to pre-existing condition, or what makes it bad. Well, I didn't have any pre-existing conditions, and I was super, super healthy. And I know a couple other people, Michael Yo, who is he is a comedian, but he is also a fitness guru, a fitness expert. It almost killed him, and he's younger than I am. So it really just depends. I think it depends more. I know most of the people that died of it had pre-existing conditions, pre-existing health conditions. But what I'm trying to tell you is people that are very perfectly healthy, like myself, that don't do any kind of medication, that don't see doctors, that just live, try to live healthy, but we are the ones that survived it if I would have had any pre-existing conditions and my health hadn't been as good as it was, it would have killed me. That's why those people are dying. And people like myself that were super, super healthy, I don't feel healthy now. I have not felt healthy since I've had COVID. My brain doesn't function as clear. I have cloudy. I feel like I'm kind of cloudy. But the main thing that I've really noticed lately, the thing that really came on is, well, my taste and smell have never come back. I've talked about that several times. I've never got my taste and smell back. That's kind of miserable. But the thing that I wasn't sure about it, but it seemed odd to me, was, and I've just learned that other people are experiencing this. There's a whole group of people out there that had COVID and that are still suffering symptoms month later, symptoms that have never went away, that they got when they had COVID and they've just never went away. This is like a big secret that nobody's talking about. Fauci, who everybody hates, he touched base on it one time, but he didn't say he really wanted to get into it because he was getting accused of all kinds of things that it was. But he goes, I'm talking to a group of people that have been suffering for months with after effects from when they had COVID. I'm one of those people. I have tons of after effects problems. The latest one, well, it's not the latest one. It's the one that I've had since I had COVID, and it is hair loss. I am literally losing all of my hair like a cancer patient. It's crazy. I have been wearing a hat all the time pretty much, but I didn't really think too much about it when it first started happening because I have long hair. I've always had long hair. But before I had COVID, my hair was so thick that it was like this big, thick ponytail that I had, this big, huge, thick ponytail. And when I got COVID, I noticed that anytime I took my hairband out of my ponytail, it was always full of hair. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then, I take a shower and just a ton of hair in the shower is like, man, that's weird. But I just thought it's because my hair's long and it was growing back. And what I've now realized is it's not growing back. It's thinning out. I'm actually going bald. And I absolutely think this was brought on by COVID. I didn't really have any problem with hair loss before I had COVID. But my hair is literally falling out like I'm getting chemotherapy. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. That's crazy, hair loss. What the F? Man, they really made a monster virus. You need extra zinc and selenium. Yeah, possibly Freedom Dove. I don't know. I've been getting out and getting a lot more vitamin D. I'm kind of a night owl, so that's something I always miss out on. So I've made sure I get out, walking my dog in the sun, making sure I'm out, making sure I get plenty of vitamin D. They say you need at least 20 or 30 minutes. I'm in the studio that I have now, and there's not even a window in this place. So I'm kind of a vampire, if you haven't picked up on that. People wonder why I'm single. That's a main reason that I am single, is because I consider myself, I was probably a terrible husband and wasn't a great dad because I've always been nocturnal. My mother was that way. I'm that way. I live at night. while most people live in the day. So when I was younger, I would get jobs at night, where I would go to work like at 3 or 4 o'clock in a hotel, and then I would get off at, 11, 12 at night. Or I've had jobs where I've worked, go in at 12 o'clock and work till 7 or 8 in the morning. Random Number said, yeah, and you can buy and patent a virus. Yes, I guess all of these viruses are patented. I don't know so much about, exactly how this China virus all came to be. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of speculation out there that it was created in a lab. I think I lean more towards that explanation for it now than I do the wet market in China. But I know people that have been to those wet markets in China, and they are pretty horrific. If you've never seen any of the videos from those wet markets, they're pretty horrific. And I was talking to you just earlier about cleaning animals. So I've done it, but I've never seen like those wet markets where they have like a freaking reticulated python chopped up, laying on a table that's just laying there with flies all over it. And then people are walking up during the day, buying pieces of this python. That's just kind of crazy. Freedom Dove says, created in a lab here and sold to China by the globalists. Yeah, that could be very possible. Anyway, one last thing is Joe Rogan's moving his podcast. He moved it to Spotify, and there's a big controversy right now because there's several of his episodes. One, the Alex Jones that everybody's noticed, but there's a few different of his episodes that did not upload to Spotify. And so that's a big, it's a big topic right now going around, people talking about this. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Joe basically left YouTube. I know he left YouTube because he was tired of YouTube basically cutting your feet off or cutting your legs off at the knees when it comes to being an entrepreneur trying to make money on YouTube. That's why I've never had to push you guys donating to me on Patreon or, sending me donations through PayPal, is because even though it's not a lot of money, I always felt like I was getting a little bit back when you get a paycheck once a month by YouTube. But now it's like YouTube doesn't want you to make money, even though they're making money themselves. Yeah, censorship on Spotify, Freedom Dove. That's what we're waiting to see if that happens. If we have censorship on Spotify as well, because the reason Joe left. Speaking of that, did you get my PayPal? You know what? Let me check, Random Nomad. I'm sure I did. I think I heard it come through. I sure did, buddy. Thank you wow, man. Thank you so much, Random Nomad. I really appreciate that. And the great thing about, thank you so much, Random Nomad. A $25 donation from Random Nomad. Thank you, buddy. I totally appreciate that. The great thing, I like it when people hit me with super chats here on YouTube. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, Random Nomad. I like it when people hit me with super chats here on YouTube. But as some of you understand, YouTube takes like 30% of that. I mean, they take a chunk of that when people donate to your YouTube channel. So they want to make sure that they get theirs, which I understand. It's an expensive platform to run. I really appreciate that. But yeah, so we're waiting to see because, I was looking at possibly moving the podcast here to Spotify if Spotify was going to let things run without all of the over censorship and all the over moderating of these platforms. I was hoping that's why Joe moved there, and that's what a lot of us, that are on the right, was hoping that Spotify could become like a real competitor to YouTube, since YouTube is run by such leftists, up in San Francisco, that they hate anything to do. Yeah, exactly. PayPal is way better for leaving tips. I totally agree, Freedom Dove. So we're, if we're on the right, we're starving for platforms to be able to share our views. Because just like me sharing my views in this podcast, even though I don't think I've said anything that's that outrageous, I can promise you this YouTube video will be demonetized. YouTube won't let me make any money off of it for at least the first 24 hours until they come in and listen to it and check it. And once they listen to it and have a person actually sit and listen to it, they'll either monetize it or demonetize it, depending on what they want to do. And since this is pretty controversial topics I'm talking about today, it'll probably get demonetized for completely. So Random Nomad just paid me what YouTube would have paid me. So if I get demonetized, I'm not going to cry about it, because I totally appreciate that, Random Nomad. You just made my day. But anyway, guys, we're at almost 1:15, so we're going to wrap this thing up here. Trying to keep all these things like less than an hour and a half for sure. I still want to hit that 1 hour mark, but haven't hit it yet. I still go over every time. It goes really quick, guys. Really, really quick. The one thing I'm not seeing... So this is a different screen than I'm used to here. This is not the regular typical screen that I get. Oh, there we go. There's 7 likes and we have 8 viewers in the room. I just had to stretch the page out a little bit. Let me see if I can shrink it over here. There we go. Just got to move things around. This is not the same screen that I usually have, just letting you know. It's a totally different screen. It's similar, the screens are similar, but it's different. So I didn't like on my regular YouTube, when I'd use the webcam, it shows me right up on the screen where my screen is. It shows how many people are watching and it shows how many likes. And on this one, it's not like that. It's down in the title. It says we have 8 viewers still in here and 7 likes. So I appreciate that, guys. Detox D, do you still watch UFC? You know, Detox, I'll always be Ultimate Fighting Championship fan. For those of you who don't know, that this is an MMA shirt that I've got on, Clinch Gear. This was Dan Henderson's old fight wear. So I will always be a fan of the UFC. I watched a very good video that Dana White, the president of the UFC, just did like a few days ago, talking about President Trump and the task force that Trump put together to handle the COVID situation. So I'll always be a fan of the UFC. I don't watch it like I used to. I was in the pioneer years of MMA. I remember MMA when I would have to explain, I'd be in a bar talking about MMA and I'd have to explain to people what it was, because they had absolutely no idea what it was. And, you know, they'd immediately go to like the John McCain, oh, it's like human cockfighting or whatever. And then I tried to explain to them, no, we're making a sport. It's going to be like the most popular sport in the next 10, 15 years. It'll be as popular as football, baseball, or basketball, or maybe even more popular. So I will always be a UFC fan, but I'm not as embedded in it as I used to be, because it's changed so much. I remember back in the day when we just wanted like Punk Ass and all the guys at Tap Out. If you don't know those guys, Mask, who passed away, Skyscrape, and Punk Ass, Dan from Tap Out. Those guys were pioneers, and I'm still friends with those guys. With Dan, Punk Ass, I'm still friends with him on Facebook and where they went. But there was a time when there was this little magical thing about MMA, when you knew what it was, but nobody else really knew what it was. And we just wanted everybody to learn what it was. Well, there's an old saying, be careful what you wish for, because once it went mainstream, it lost a lot of its magic, I guess, a lot of its mystique for us that didn't, that were in the beginning. John Jones is going to move to heavyweight. I knew that would eventually happen. I knew once, he walks around, JJ walks around about 225, 228. And I knew he'd get tired of cutting down to 208 when he could just fight as a heavyweight, and he could bulk up. He doesn't really have to worry about cutting weight. I think a lot of his problems stem from him having to really get in shape and cut weight. And for those of you who've never cut weight, it sounds like there's not much to it. It's a science, and it's really hard on your body. And John Jones, Bones Jones, has been doing it for years. And I'm sure he's tired of it. And now he's aging, and as you age, the older you get, the harder it gets to drop the weight. So we all knew eventually he had moved to heavyweight. And it's going to be exciting to see what he can do at heavyweight, because he's just dominated for years in the lightweight. He should be undefeated. His one loss record Dana's tried to get it expunged because it was for a 12 o'clock elbow, which he was dominating the fight. The fight should have been stopped. The fight was over. But I think it was Steve Mazzagatti, who was a referee at the time, and he didn't stop the fight, but he stopped the fight and then disqualified John Jones for a straight, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock elbow, which is illegal. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see JJ in the heavyweight division. We've never seen him really lose. We've never seen him really get dominated, but we have seen him have some stiffer competition lately. Like I said, he's getting older, and as you get older, those new young dogs come up, and they're hungry and they're ready to go. Freedom Dove says, I'm not a fan of sports, but if you're wrestling someone to protect me or our family, I'm okay with it. Yep, wrestling's a great base. And then if you put Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on top of wrestling, you're pretty much unstoppable against most people if they've never trained. All right, guys. I do appreciate. I think I made it through all of the. I actually made it through all of my show notes today. So 1 was talking about Tom Hanks, 2 Pizzagate, 3 places closing and no ingredients. My lingering COVID effects, and Joe Rogan, and actually promoting the Patreon and the PayPal. So I appreciate everything. Worked out great today so far, guys. Let's see if we can actually close this show out. Yes, you know it, Random Nomad. Here comes the outro, buddy. Maybe. Let's see.
Thank you for listening to the American Nomad Podcast. Until next time, keep looking up because that's where it all is.
That's going to do it, guys. I think we made it through this show with no major crazy technical difficulties. All worked out pretty well today. Turn this down so I can still talk a little bit. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of the American Nomad. I will see you guys back here Friday at 7 p.m. I'm actually going to be staying at some of my friends' house this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. They got a big, beautiful home like 3 miles from me, and they're going out of town, and I'm going to be pet sitting and just hanging out on the couch and vegging out and probably watching some Game of Thrones because they got me watching Game of Thrones. I'd never seen it, so I'll be watching Game of Thrones this weekend probably. That's what I did the last time I stayed a weekend over at their house, like a couple weeks ago. I'm going to miss that. Friday one, got to work all day. No problem, Random Nomad. We'll see you back here, though, buddy. That's why we do the show 3 times a week. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I always look so forward to seeing you guys. Anyway, that's going to do it. We will see some of you back here Friday at 7 p.m. for the next episode of American Nomad.